You know, what is going on in the gig economy right now? I have a brand new report. This is part 3 of a 3-part series going over the highest paying gig apps from the gig tracking and earnings tracking app Gridwise. And I invite you to watch all 3 parts in the series in the linked playlist linked down below. This is an in-depth study, 171 million trips. Perhaps let me know what gig apps you're working on right now. I started my gig journey in 2015 with Rideshare, did basically every major gig app you can think of in different niches: food delivery, parcel, grocery shopping. So look, when we're comparing 171 million trips by more than 260,000 drivers covering all this data, this is the video to watch if you're working in the gig economy. Now, in part 3, again, it's a 3-part series. My name is Mike. If this is the first time you and I are meeting, all I do here is help you make money in different side hustles. I want to look at some event economics with you in this video. Think about, okay, what influences your earnings? Is it just supply and demand? Is it as simple as that? What else might affect your earnings? In this video, we're going to deal with events, weather, and some really maybe firsthand feedback, things that you've never seen before about what your customers are saying about the platforms that they use. Hey, if you're watching live, let me know in the live chat or in the replay down below in the comments what marketplace you're watching from. Take a look at this. Really interesting. Again, in our part 3 of this Gridwise supports, I've tried their app myself. Great for tracking your income, your miles, and seeing some trend analysis. So if you want to check out Gridwise, check out the link below. We see some data here from different events. Look at these events. And even if you're like, Mike, I'm in a small marketplace, look at this first event. This is Burning Man. And we don't have massive music festivals in southeastern Illinois, man, or Washington. Well, you have the Gorge Amphitheater up there, though. There's some events up there. Or, whatever it is. Don't worry. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Okay. Used to live in San Diego. They have straight music festivals right downtown in San Diego and in Petco Park. We don't have that here, but that's okay. Look at this, because there's some big takeaways here. The Gridwise data said daily trip volume. This is rideshare and delivery. So if you like a certain one, let me know which app you like best and what niche you like best. But I saw this: airport demand in the days leading up to the event surged massively. This is the daily trip volume percent from median for similar days of the week. Makes sense, right? Okay, well, the event days you can see there in gray, Burning Man event. Okay, Mike, it makes sense. Days before, massive airport demand. And we're going to talk about airport runs later on Rideshare. Also tying this into food delivery. But look what else I noticed here. That looking at rideshare demand, if you're multi-niching, we teach. So there's multi-apping, driving or working on different apps at the same time, and simply selecting the best offer for you. And then you can multi-niche. So I'm working on different niches, rideshare, but also food delivery. So look what happened here. On rideshare demand, we have peaks and valleys when. So right in the middle of the event of this weekend here, demand tanked. And think about how this would change your strategy. And then obviously, as the event of the weekend concluded here, airport demand rose. But look at what delivery did. So delivery, we have these trends here. This is exactly, lean into this, drop a like on this video if this is a big aha moment and unlock for you. I know it is for me. I've done both at the same time. There's delivery spikes here. Do you know why delivery spiked in these areas specifically? Answer that in the live chat or the comments. Answer Why are there demand spikes 3 different times at these areas specifically? So type that right now, and I'm going to give you my feedback as a music festival goer. What is it? 8-time EDC Las Vegas festival goer, not this year. We're saving money. But here's, in my opinion, what happens and how you can tweak your gig app strategy. Obviously, if you're multi-niching, rideshare, get those airport pickups. People are coming in for a big event, festival, sporting event. Remember, Southeast Illinois or whatever it was, I see you. Or if you're in a smaller or mid-sized marketplace, I see you. So it doesn't have to be just music festivals, but anticipate that. More rides coming in, obviously, inbound to your airport. But look, once those visitors, whatever, fans, tourists, whatever kind of event it is, whenever they're now in your marketplace, airport demand tanks, as we saw, they're now here. Conventions, there's another thing you might want to pay attention to. They don't live there, right? So they need food delivery, unless they got like an Airbnb and they're saving money, which would honestly be smart, getting some groceries. But a lot of people don't do that. That is exactly why, based on this Gridwise data, we see spikes beforehand. That's kind of the, I'd rather be early, hurry up and wait. They want to get there early. They want to settle in. So you see a little bit of a demand spike there. The first couple of days. Okay, we're settling in. Let's get ready for this festival, this event, this convention, this sporting event. Let's just order some food delivery. That's that second spike right there. Shout out to Jose for the super chat, Mr. Reliable. He is Mr. Reliable on the live stream super chats or super sticker. Thanks for being here, Jose. Demand spike number 3, the largest one at the end of this event weekend. What is that? That's like, okay, maybe you did cook meals at the Airbnb or whatever it is. You saved money, but now you're like, I'm spent from the festival, from the convention, whatever it is. Let's just get food delivered. Let's just order in today. That's that third spike. Now, there's varying customer behaviors here. What does this mean for you? For events in general, answer this question. Is the event big enough for it to actually cause a change in the demand level? Like, you'll have to know, because you know your marketplace best. Is a convention big enough? Is a sporting event important enough? Is it going to bring enough people? Or is the music festival, in this case, big enough that you'll see this change here? So for Burning Man, now let's turn our attention to Taylor Swift. Let me know if that's your cup of tea here. Look, similarly, in this report, look at what this Taylor Swift event did for Indianapolis. Pairing, if you're like, that's not my thing, don't worry. Look, pairing with a Colts game. This is a wonderful piece of data here from Gridwise that shows, what if I have the sporting event demand versus, let's say, the Taylor Swift concert? Look what happened here. So on this event here for rideshare, look at what happened before the event. Why would rideshare drop below the median statistically before the event? These are the days leading up to the event. In this case, October 28th, 29th, going into this event on November 2nd through the 4th. Think about that. And then obviously the event itself, huge demand. But this is about 28% spike above median versus Burning Man. We can go back here. Look at that airport demand, for instance, a twofold, basically 100% increase over median. So that goes back to the fact of how big is this event? How important is it? How many people are coming into your marketplace? But going back to the Swiftie trend analysis here, we see a huge demand in rideshare, obviously, when these visitors are in your marketplace. Now, look at the Colts game, though, on the right. November 10th, about a week-ish, a week and a half later. Why is this important? because that is exactly what I just mentioned. Which events will bring in more people and more demand, and for what niche? So this is just rideshare. So even if it's a home game, obviously it is. It's in Indianapolis. That's, I don't know, maybe there was a larger capacity. You would assume it's the same stadium. I don't know, but maybe there's more of a turnout for this Taylor Swift concert than fans going to the Colts game. And it kind of makes sense because, okay, Colts fans, a good amount of them are living in Indianapolis anyway. They're just going to drive to the stadium. Sure, some of them might need rideshare. And then some others may tailgate, so they already drive themselves anyway. Versus Taylor Swift concert, same thing. You know, a good amount of the attendees are going to be from Indianapolis, but maybe that brings more fly-in visitors, what have you. Now, even if you think rideshare is not worth it, I'm glad you asked. More than a conqueror, and you watching, stay tuned here. Even if you don't do rideshare, some insanely good data here in rideshare and food delivery and other niches in this video. What events are in your marketplace? Let's just take a pause here. Again, if this is the first time you and I are meeting, my name is Mike, coming to you from the Steel City, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We got Acrisure Stadium. I still want to say Heinz Field. I was going to say it again. Acrisure Stadium, right over there. Convention Center, right over there. Events. So I start to think about this. What events are in your marketplace? Okay. Any events that are unique to your marketplace that brings in visitors, tourists, guests, and would spike rideshare or food delivery, let's say. I can think of some events at the convention center that's kind of unique to Pittsburgh that brings in guests that dress in colorful and fuzzy like costume attire, if you know what that event is. And then, of course, we have sporting events here in Pittsburgh. But let's move on here. Again, if you're just joining, or if you didn't know, this data is brought to us with a channel partnership from Gridwise, the mileage tracking and gig earnings tracking app. Again, that is Gridwise. Check them out with the link below. Get a free trial. I've been on both their free plan. Well, that's the thing. It's not even a trial. They have a straight free version, which is wonderful. And I've tried their Gridwise Plus plan. Great monthly investment for what you get, all the deep analytics and the tracking, automatic mileage syncing with their Plus plan. Some great stuff there, so check it out. Now, turning our attention to tipping. Customer tips, something that is incredibly important for your gig earnings. Let me take that away for a second because I want to set this up with this. Another question you need to know. You need to know this stuff. And if you don't know this, you're just going to kind of fall in the bell curve of average earners here in the gig economy. And I'm sure you don't want to be an average earner here. What % of your customers tip? You should be able to answer that. Write it down below in the comments. I hope you're taking notes here, or at least rewatch this live training, or put it in the live chat. What % of your customers tip? That's question number one. And then question number two, what is the average dollar amount that you get? So I want you to get at least like 80+% of your customers leaving you a tip. Then an average tip, I don't really, it's going to depend on if it's like groceries, rideshare, food delivery, but I would love a $4 to $5 plus average tip. So what % of your customers tip? Now, looking at tips here, going back to that Taylor Swift concert in Indianapolis, Taylor Swift's dedicated fan base tipped 56% more often than the average rider on concert nights. Isn't that fascinating? What does that mean for your earnings? The proportion of rideshare trips that included a tip as well was notably higher on event days. So you're getting a higher % of customers tipping in general, and then 56% more tip than average as well. So it's higher tip frequency and it's higher tip average as well. That's wonderful. And they related this to the celebratory atmosphere. Going back to my example here, when I travel, or if I'm just taking, let's say, rideshare on a fun night out, it sounds kind of funny, but that's true. Any events because think about this, convention versus events, music festival, sporting events, I would argue you're going to probably get both of those better. The percent of customers tipping and the average customer tip because of the celebratory atmosphere. We kind of forget these things, don't we? Of what influences our behavior with tipping. Sure, good service, being an expert, being nice and professional, but there's some other things that we don't control. Maybe when people are feeling good, celebratory atmosphere. That's some really great insight there. And look at this in visual format. So imagine you're driving, let's say, this is rideshare, okay? 56% more likely to tip and a higher tip on average. So not only will you know what niche to use, rideshare versus delivery, where to be, maybe the airport versus like positioning around this concert venue. And frankly, what I've done in the past is even understanding your marketplace good enough to know the road closures. Think about that. Did you ever think about, okay, if I need to get to the stadium or the music festival venue, what have you, how do they usually close the roads? What's the best way in, knowing all the different road closures, north, south, whatever way you're coming into the marketplace? And that's how I can capitalize on my tips. Okay, but let's move on to weather. What marketplace are you in? Let me know in the live chat or the comments down below. Again, I'm here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I can tell you, when I started in 2015, I was sitting around, if you don't know my story, in the Shady Side area, and I wasn't doing much. I was sitting around, not making any money. I was working customer service. I was answering like 100+ calls a day. You get that little dial in, and then you're on a call again, and it's just nonstop. And I wanted to make more money. I wanted to be in charge of my income. So I saw this, actually really Lyft thing at the time, because I don't know if you remember, they had these pink fuzzy mustaches on the front of cars. Forget about the air intake on the front grille. Forget about that. We'll have this pink fuzzy mustache. And then I discovered Uber after that visual cue from Lyft, and I started October of 2015. So I'm thinking, okay, if I go out, I'm spending money. If I stay in, I'm usually watching TV, playing video games or something, or just wasting my time. Let's try this side hustle thing. I had a silver 2010 Dodge Caliber. Parents didn't love it because they're like, you really are going to let some stranger, like these random people in your vehicle? And if you remember when rideshare first came out, that's what everyone thought. Everyone's like, what is this Uber and Lyft thing where random people get in my vehicle? And when I drove, still, weather is always a concern. On a recent shift, I had a tornado warning. I was in the East Liberty area near a Target, and I had to text the customer like, hey, man, I need to pull over because quite literally there's a tornado warning, and the skies look like it's telling me I should not be driving right now. It looks pretty insane. So let's see what weather does to your earnings. So what Gridwise found was during hurricane events here, several hurricanes, Francine, Helen, and more, Milton, this is in 2024, the huge drop in rideshare and delivery, an 80% drop below median here. And we see kind of a tapering effect of before and after, and what that did to your demand levels. So if you're driving any gig app, I'll tell you this. As someone who I just told you, I've driven in inclement weather. I drove in the first couple of years during some heavy rainfall as well. It wasn't hurricanes. That the takeaway is, I know you may need money. I can relate. I have been flat broke before. I've been in very, very hard struggling scenarios with money. And I understand you don't want to miss a day. I understand you need the money. I understand that you start thinking, oh, if I can't drive today, if I can't work today, I'm going to have to make double tomorrow or work 5 extra hours each day for the next 2 days or whatever it is to make up for it. This chart from Gridwise shows us, look, in actuality, demand is falling anyway because people are staying in. They're prepping, especially if you're in hurricane zones, tornado alley, if you have earthquake warnings or any signals that an earthquake may be coming, what have you, that frankly, it's not worth it. I don't want you to ever put safety on the back burner for anything, any app, any niche, any marketplace. I understand money might be tough. It's still going to be tough. What I would do instead is look at any at-home side hustles, any at-home gig apps, translation. There's like transcription stuff where you listen to text and you just write out what's being said. There's a whole bunch of things you can do from home, e-commerce, trying to monetize on socials. We have playlists of new side hustles to try if you want to check that out, just to get some ideas. There's translation. I know I said transcription. I don't know about translation, but there's a lot of other things at least you can try. There's surveys, respondent user testing, studies like that. So an 80% drop, it is not worth it, please. There might be surge, there might be prime time, there might be bonus pay, but the demand has dropped anyway. So basically what that means is you could even get an extra $10 a ride, and most of these apps might shut down anyway during states of emergency anyway. So it might not even be available. But if it's available, you might get $10 extra per delivery or per ride. You think that's amazing, but volume's tanked anyway. So you're going to be sitting around anyway in not a great environment, a threatening environment because of weather. That's just my, opinion for you. I want you to be safe first and foremost. Now, even more severe events, look what happened. So even more severe events, this saying affected North Carolina areas, took much longer to recover rideshare and delivery than Florida after Hurricane Helen. So look at this. The same day of the week in affected areas, you can compare the recovery here from Florida that we just showed you to North Carolina and how much longer it took for the markets to recover. So this is another reason you have to multi-niche, try different things, and then possibly if you're in areas that could be affected by weather, look at home side hustles as well. Look at starting that business. Look at doing that thing that you want to do. Or you could do this. You could look at picking up extra shifts. Maybe you have a standard W-2, part-time work. Maybe you can request overtime for your standard job in the week leading up to this. They're starting to talk about, hey, this hurricane's coming through, this severe weather's coming through. Maybe front load it. Maybe drive a couple extra hours a day, a week to front load it to get that income. So when you have severe events like this, look at North Carolina, where it takes longer for the market to recover, then you'll be protected. I hope that's a big takeaway. Fantastic data, 260,000 drivers in this Gridwise report. Really interesting to see what weather has done to different marketplaces. Now, you might have seen that question or that statement we'll say earlier that said, hey, rideshare is not worth it, right? I told you that was the first side hustle I did. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I had my Dodge Caliber, super minimal. It was like 120 horsepower. It was a glorified lawnmower. The thing did not have a lot of horsepower, but it was an okay vehicle. It was a starter vehicle for me. And I would transport students mainly around the Pitt campus, down to party, the bars, but I'd also do airport runs. So in 2025 though, because hey, Mike, we're 10 years later, basically, is airport rideshare still worth it? So as we saw a commenter, a team member here, and I invite you to subscribe if you haven't, we'd love to have you a part of the team here. We have a new driver team contributor program at yourdrivermike.com/contributor. We can get paid for sharing some of that gig insight. Pretty sweet. Check that out. But is it still worth it? Let's see what Gridwise says. So the most recent data here on rideshare in focus, peak airport volume. Let me ask you this. Okay, let me ask you this though. When's the best day to drive rideshare? Because if it's not worth it, you might think never. But then how is it that Lyft has 1.3 million drivers and Uber has 7 million drivers and couriers? They don't break that up individually, but assume whatever kind of split, 50-50, 60-40, whatever you want to do. There's still millions of Uber drivers. So why do they do it? And there's certainly millions that do airport runs. So when's the busiest day? When's the slowest day? Let me ask you that. And then let me show you this data right here. Gridwise says last year, for example, peak volumes were actually on a Thursday, May 16th, and Friday, May 17th. Why? This mid-May surge likely reflected increased spring travel related to events such as graduations, conferences, and early summer plans. In contrast, the lowest demand occurs during major holidays, with significant declines on Thanksgiving, over a 50% decline, Christmas Day over 50% decline, and the day after Christmas, 43% decline, respectively. So look at this visualized here. If you're driving, let's say, airport runs, generally fast, I would not have guessed, fascinating, May 16th and 17th. Okay, so early summer, as they cited here. Why? And then Memorial Day, well, the day after Memorial Day, and then basically random days in May. So it says right there, basically every day that's the busiest is in May. Very interesting to think about. So if your marketplace, think about here in Pittsburgh, think about any marketplace that might be, maybe you're not the travel destination. Like, I don't think we're having like millions and millions of visitors coming to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania every year, but New York City, Miami, LA, those are destination locations. Okay. Obviously every city has visitors, but if you're more so of a marketplace where people travel out of for summertime, I would double down on this. May, coming up in a couple of months at the time of filming this video. So if you think of either I might pick up rideshare again. Or if you're doing rideshare right now and you're thinking it's slow, if you're like, I just don't know when to go to the airport, I just kind of take what they send me. As far as inbound demand, May might be the month. May might be, no, I was trying to double May. May be the best month. There we go. We did it. 2x May. May may be the month for you to go rideshare. Conversely, look at the bottom of this chart here, that you might not want to do airport runs on any holiday. Because the actual holiday itself, oh, by the way, folks, I've done, as I kind of alluded to, gig work for almost 10 years now. Be here in October, it'll be 10 years in the gig space for myself. I've done gig work on basically every major holiday as well. I'm coming from a place of humble experience. I'm just one point of reference. Obviously, use a lot of different points of reference to make your decisions on gig work. But I've worked on Christmas Day. I've worked on New Year's Day, the days before and after. I've worked on Black Friday. I've worked on basically St. Patrick's Day and every single holiday basically in between here. The reason you might not want to work on the holiday itself is because, dude, I'm busy, man. Christmas, no, I don't really need a ride, man. I'm spending time with family. New Year's Day, like, oh no, I'm good. Maybe last night, maybe New Year's Eve, but even here it says New Year's Eve is down 40% for airports. Christmas Day, Thanksgiving Day, a huge drop at 57% of airport. So here's full circle right here. This is a huge unlock that if you're doing rideshare, lean in May for going to the airport, possibly. It varies by marketplace, obviously. But if you are going to work on actual holidays, don't go to that airport because people are most likely, obviously, there'll still be flights coming in, but people are already there for Christmas. They're already there for New Year's Day, and Gridwise's data supports that as much. But people might need rides within your market. Boom, there's the full circle right there. People might need rides just within the market, just not to and from the airport. Drop a like on this video, folks. My name is Mike. All I do is help you make money in different side hustles. This is part 3 in a 3-part series with the app Gridwise. Check them out with the link below. Some excellent data. Now, what about data about your customers? I don't think we've ever really seen data, at least not as of late here, or maybe you've never even thought about what your customers are saying. This study looked at what 1,000 customers are actually saying about how they use gig apps. Because we might think, listen, it's supply and demand. You order food when you're hungry. You take rideshare when you need to go somewhere like dinner. You don't want to deal with parking or back from the bars. We know that. But for the latest data going into 2025, what are customers actually saying? And you might be a customer too. Let me know how you use these apps here. In regards to the perceived fairness of rideshare costs, 59.5% of users find rideshare prices reasonable. 40.5% believe prices are too high, however. So it's not quite 50-50. It's a 60-40, but man, it's getting close for prices being too high. What does that mean if you're working in rideshare? Look, it might mean lower tips. This is why you might want to use an app like Gridwise, especially on their Plus plan, so you can understand the actual data of what you're getting. But if passengers are already thinking it's not quite reasonable, they might not tip more. They might take less rides per month because of that. And then considering the question, have you reduced your rideshare usage in the past year due to pricing? Almost 20% said yes, significantly. 32.1% said yes, somewhat. So we have a 50% of respondents to reducing rideshare due to pricing alone say like, yeah, to varying degrees. So if you're a rideshare driver, think about this in 2025. I mean, this is no secret. I think a lot of us are very aware of price concerns, a tightening or already tight economy, discretionary spending, like, well, I gotta cut back on my discretionary spending. Maybe I will just drive. Maybe I'll take public transit, what have you. So we pose the question, what about saturation? At the start of this video, I told you Lyft, 1.3 million drivers, Uber, 7 million drivers and couriers, DoorDash, 7 million plus couriers. So there's concerns about saturation, but it's not just saturation, it's also changing consumer behaviors in a tight economy. Now, they were asked, what keeps you loyal to a specific rideshare service? I mean, no real surprise here. Again, I asked you if you use gig apps yourself. You can let me know, what gig apps you're currently using on the consumer side. But, 55% of consumers said, well, lower fares. 50% said faster pickup times. 38% easier to use. 28.5% promos or any rewards I can get. And 23% high quality customer support, especially I firmly believe, especially in a tight economy, people are cutting back on discretionary spending. It's going to come down. Look, I don't really care. Like, great. Customer service is wonderful. Yeah. Promotions, even using the app. Oh, it's easy to use. Right now, it's coming down to fares and costs. And we see that here, clear delineation of what customers want. Faster pickup times, 50% of respondents. That's always the argument against saturation. Companies want, and I've heard this from Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi, drivers on every street corner. So there is faster pickup times, but we're always concerned about saturation, which is why I encourage you to multi-app, to multi-niche. What about your customers in food delivery, though? A lot of us think DoorDash is arguably one of the most popular gig apps, certainly in the food delivery space, a commanding 60+% market share when it comes to monthly sales. And customers also are concerned about pricing at the same time. I mean, I don't know if you've seen any of the memes. It's like, hey, let's get DoorDash. How much are 3 tacos? I'm not that hungry. And it's like $70 because of delivery fees. It's crazy. So the customer, they know, they have their ear to the ground that prices are a huge concern. But let's see what they say here. Well, speaking of DoorDash, I actually pulled this externally from DoorDash to give you some flavor and a different perspective on this Gridwise report rather. DoorDash reported their year-by numbers, 2024, this is recent data, someone spent $4,000 in 2024, by the way, on La Mer, I'm trying to make it sound fancy, La Mer moisturizing face cream. And then they said green beans, someone with a serious love of this simple veggie shelled out an astonishing $5,000 on them last year. $5,000. Small orders, 53-cent single banana order, and a 10-cent dip order from McDonald's. These were real orders, as reported from DoorDash. But going back to Gridwise here, I showed you that, and I mentioned the fees because, no surprise, customers say, well, would you continue using a food delivery app if delivery fees increased? Like half of people said no. I would switch to pickup. I just go get it myself. Only a third have enough money to burn, or they're just, perpetually going into debt over food delivery. I mean, we just saw that Klarna partnership, right, folks? For orders over $35, not meant for burritos, per the company. But they said, yeah, I value convenience. I'm going to keep spending. And then 20% said unsure. As someone who's worked on most every single major gig app, thousands of trips, transactions, assignments in different marketplaces, I think now more so than any time we've ever seen, customers are right on the ledge of like falling off of these fees are too much, man. They're like sitting with their legs over the edge, just kicking their feet. And if these fees go up anymore, or if there's anything else integrated on the fees side, then you can see here, like 50% are just going to not do food delivery. They're going to go pick it up. Or what's not asked in here is they're just going to leave the platform. We talk about discretionary spending. So that's something we're going to watch closely in 2025. Now, customers were asked, have you ever switched food delivery apps? If yes, what prompted the change? No surprise. Please type no surprise in the live chat or the comments. Just type no surprise because this is no surprise. Better fees or pricing. I switched because of that, 54%. Better loyalty programs. Now, honestly, that comes down to pricing as well because you save on delivery fees and service fees. The catalyst in 2025 are going to be fees and costs for the customers. 36% wider selection of restaurants. Perhaps surprising, but not, because these companies have been focusing on what's called new verticals: grocery, shopping, retail, alcohol, package. So if you have some discretionary income, if you're happy with the usability, we saw that on the other question, if you like using the app, if they have more of what you want, like, oh, now I can order an alcohol run on my DoorDash app. Now I can actually send my package as well through DoorDash. There's some customers that will keep going on to the platform because of that. But fees are number one. What keeps you loyal? I mean, come on. It's rideshare and delivery customers, lower fees, promos, which again means getting more freebies and discounts, faster delivery times. Okay, sure. There's a restaurant variety again. Time and time again, it's going to be fees. Grocery, though. We talked about tips with events, sporting events, concerts, what have you. We just cited what the customer is thinking, but grocery, while it's a new vertical for, let's say, Uber, DoorDash, established players like Instacart and Shipt, they've been there, but still, grocery is still kind of a fringe case, isn't it? Like, sure, Instacart, Shipt are popular, but it's just not as widely used as rideshare and food delivery. Might that mean it's a great earnings opportunity for you? It's not as saturated. Shipt has like 300,000, maybe 400,000, who knows, the most recent data, shoppers. Instacart is pretty close. It's either 300 or 600,000, but it's nowhere near DoorDash or Uber. So Gridwise's data said 53.2% find grocery prices reasonable. 47% consider them too high. This is closer to a 50-50. Remember, we just saw 60-40, I think it was on food delivery. Grocery incurs more fees, possibly. The shopper has to do more work. You, by the way, that's you. You got to go into that store, shop for me. Well, I don't order grocery. I don't want you to think that I'm ordering these big grocery runs. We'll say Sam, okay? Sam's placing his order for food. You're the one that has to shop for those 40 items, 30 items, or whatever it's going to be. Hey, Sam, the Bounty, the Mountain Spring scent, they always have these like funny, like radiant, shimmering mountain scents. That sounds like it would actually be one. It's like these ridiculous, like, hey, they don't have this. Do you want this? And you got to wait for them to respond, substitutions. So it's more work possibly, but you might get more tips on grocery. When asked customers, have you reduced grocery delivery orders due to, there you go again, delivery costs? 21% significantly, 33% somewhat. Again, 50%, like we saw in the other niches, customers are spending less. We talked about discretionary income. We can argue if this is becoming more of a luxury, right, than a necessity. I mean, I would argue it's pretty clear, these delivery apps, usually more of a luxury than a necessity because you're paying for the convenience. Would you switch to in-store shopping if grocery delivery fees increase? Remember how we showed the increase in fees? Food delivery customers said, I'll just go pick it up, man. I'm not doing that. Would you switch to shopping in a grocery store? 58% said yes. 26% can ball out like that. And they're like, nah, I value the convenience. Like, it's what fees, right? But most people are sensitive to prices. Again, we talked about kind of being on that ledge here. Now, rounding the corner, as we kind of round third base, if you will, on this three-part training here, as we close with this. Answer this question. What is the riskiest high-paying side hustle? And high-paying is subjective. You can even take that out. What's like the riskiest side hustle? Let me know. I'm talking like actually like risky, like you feel a little unsafe maybe. What do you think that is in 2025? Well, like it or not, and I've done this. I've done thousands of trips between Uber and Lyft. It's probably rideshare. What is there? We talked about grocery shopping. I mean, not much can happen in the Aldi's produce aisle and there's food delivery, burrito. Just imagine me looking at a burrito next to me in my car seat. Burrito's not going to do anything. Don't worry. The burrito can't harm you. That's all in your head. There's what else? There's the shopping we talked about, grocery, parcel, Amazon Flex, paper cuts on the cardboard box, moisturize those hands. No, right? It's rideshare. You have a stranger in the vehicle. You know your marketplace, but not every area. So there's that too. You're picking up at nights, visibility's low, and literally just, all right, JB with no profile pictures getting in my car, 4.81 rating, not stellar, not the best, not the worst, but So look at the data here from Gridwise. 29.5% of women report feeling somewhat unsafe at night driving rideshare versus just 11.8% of men report feeling somewhat unsafe at night. Now, this question in particular, I don't know if they framed this with rideshare actually, or just, say nighttime safety perceptions, it says, but you can see there 2x for women are more than twice as likely to express safety concerns at night. Let me know if you're a female driver. If you drive rideshare, do you have safety concerns? I've talked to my friends and some of my, female friends who have done gig work, even food delivery. I've heard some concerns. I'm just trying to deliver your burrito, man. And, I've heard those stories. What about avoiding rideshare at night due to safety concerns? Some surprising numbers here. Look at this. 39.7% of women have avoided rideshare at night due to safety concerns. I would assume this is directed towards driving rideshare, not taking rideshare as a rider. But we'll just assume that. 25.9% of men have avoided rideshare at night due to safety concerns. I'll answer this question for you. I told you I first did rideshare October. Halloween weekend was my first rideshare. What a weekend to do it. The busiest, arguably, next to like New Year's Eve. I did Uber, I did Lyft. I did in different marketplaces. When I was here in Pittsburgh, it was primarily from 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. It was that like overnight bar rush, a lot of students partying. Then when I did it in San Diego, it was like people going out in La Jolla, spending all this money and what have you. So there were certainly times like 99% of the rides are completely fine. Like they're nice or they don't want to talk to you and it's just awkwardly quiet. And then they get out and you're like, have a good night. And they don't even say anything then. You're like, all right, off to the next ride. But there were, X amount of rides, probably less than 1%, where I just felt a little, just like a little like, okay, well, this is, for some reason, I was getting the vibe that it's a little bit awkward or, what have you. And you could compound that for some of the data that we saw here, today. Now, daytime, look at the difference of daytime driving. 31.2% of women feel very safe during the day comparatively. 46.1% of men feel very safe during the day. I would include myself in that. If I would do rideshare today, let's say, here in Pittsburgh, you put me at any daylight hour or back in San Diego, or you let me know in the live chat or the comments. Answer this question right now. How do you feel? Do you feel safe during night rideshare driving? And then answer both questions in the comments here in one comment, if you could. Do you feel safe during daytime rideshare driving? I say, I feel, to quote this, very safe. Well, we'll say that. Do you feel very safe during the day? I'd say, yeah. Generally, if I had to choose yes or no, I feel very safe. And, I'll tell you this, that I would always be on guard a little bit. Okay. I wouldn't just completely, get lost in the ride. Even the nicest person in the world, I would still, protect yourself. Just be on guard, right? I would say this is probably the riskiest side hustle, but it can pay quite well. Statistically, a lot of the times it pays more than food delivery. But then comparatively, do I feel very safe at night if I was driving rideshare? Very safe? Like, can I just say safe? Do I feel very safe? Ugh. I don't really do a lot of rideshare, and it's in part because of that. Like, I don't know if I'd say very safe. I feel safe at night, but I don't know if I'd go as far to say very safe. Now, statistically, it is still a very safe side hustle, but the percent of things that could go wrong, even though the percent is very low, still a burrito is never going to do that. Parcel delivery is never going to do that. I don't want to discourage you if you want to do rideshare. It can certainly be a good gig, but imagine you're doing 1, 5, 10, 20,000 rides. Statistically, there's going to be some rides that make you feel a little uncomfortable. So with that, let's go over Gridwise's overall findings. Again, this is a wonderful partnership with Gridwise. Shout outs to them for providing us this deep insights. Go check out their app. There's a free version, which is sweet, and a paid version, which is a nominal investment every single month for getting deeper insights, automatic data syncing. I've used both. I do recommend their Plus plan, get that business deduction, and see your earnings a little bit deeper to understand if you're actually making money. Some great insights syncing your gig apps there. So Gridwise says, insights from their extensive customer survey reveal shifting preferences, particularly a growing emphasis on food delivery services. And it reflects changing priorities of gig workers and customers. What matters most to you, the driver, flexibility, competitive earnings, and the critical role tipping plays in job satisfaction. By the way, if you want to see more on tipping, make sure to watch part 2. I'll leave the entire playlist link down below. Each part goes into a different data sets in different areas of the gig economy. Really a wonderful 3-part series here. And it is affected by nuanced dynamics. I really like how they said that here, because I've always said, I've done gig work almost 10 years now. It's not hard. It's not like this guy has a whole YouTube channel about like gig work. How hard is it to drive someone to the Steelers game or pick up a burrito or like deliver packages? It's not hard, the actual task, but that's what makes it hard, because it is exactly this. It is nuanced dynamics. What's the best way to problem solve this? Delays with that. Customers dealing with that. How much is too much communication? How much is not enough? Customer service, in-person deliveries, package route management, choosing the best assignments to take. Do I get paid per offer, per hour? All this stuff. It is nuanced, which is exactly why, if you think of a bell curve of earners, most people are in the middle, and then you have some outliers that are making a lot of money and not a lot of money at all. So if you want to make the most money, you need to know the nuanced parts of these gigs here. Correlation with publicly available data. This data from Gridwise is also highly accurate, as Gridwise's data of over 260,000 drivers closely matches up a 98% correlation with key figures, quarterly figures, reported by some major gig companies. So all that means is Gridwise Analytics did this separate research study, and it also closely relates to what these companies have reported. So to have that pairing there based on like what the companies are seeing, what Gridwise is seeing, that's a nice high degree of accuracy per Gridwise. For example, when analyzing average daily Uber and Lyft trips taken in New York City, our data closely aligned. So there you go. So what I want you to do, check out the entire series. I'll have it linked down below in that pinned comment for you. Again, my name is Mike. I've really enjoyed this 3-part series. Let Gridwise know in the comments that we would love to have them back, see some more data every single year, and certainly that we appreciate them partnering with the channel to bring you this awesome data. My name is Mike. Put your questions down below. And if you're watching live, I want to answer your questions right now.